welcome to this Drive Live with an Engineer. And today I am joined by Zach. Zach is an engineer from New York, and he's had about 5 to 6 years in his engineering career. And we'll be talking about his career today. Let's have a look at your career then, Zach. You started out studying to be a mechanical engineer.
Yeah, both undergraduate and in grad school, mechanical engineering. And I think this is the cliche engineer story, but growing up, I was the kid obsessed with cars, boats, planes, and I think from a very young age, like I remember second, third grade, so maybe I was 8 or 9, my parents kind of telling me, oh, you should be an engineer. Actually, so the goal was always, I want to study naval architecture because I wanted to design boats. Yeah, and then that is something I did look into. However, when it came time for college, the options for universities that are that focused aren't that many. And as well as I kind of figured, all right, what's next step up on that branch as far as broader? And so, do I want to really commit to such a narrow focus? And I figured mechanical engineering really would include a lot of disciplines that I liked about boats, but really would be applicable in a variety of applications.
To some, they aspire to work for the large, big names, and you particularly have really enjoyed that experience of working for a small company, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I work for a relatively small business. And yeah, I think the typical engineering student, we look at, the Boeings, the Lockheeds, all the big exciting names you see on the news and all that. That seems cool, and I have a lot of friends who have gone down that path, and they seem happy with it. But working at a small business, I kind of like the breadth I get. And I think, while I can really apply a lot of engineering and then really get my hands dirty with the engineering, I really get to see a lot of more interdisciplinary aspects of businesses, and then as well as the industry. My third year at school, I figured a lot of my friends were going on to internships. A lot of the school kind of encourages that, hey, you really should get some experience in the industry, and I figured that was the best time. And so luckily I found DHC, the little knob company. It was a really interesting internship. It really kind of exposed me to, I guess, what's kept me there to this day. And I continue, I worked there through my undergraduate, and then I continued working there through grad school. When I came on to EHC in my internship, like there kind of isn't the time to get coffee for someone else because stuff needs to get done. And so when I came on board, the company had been, it's been around forever. A lot of all their drawings and production data has been like an AutoCAD, like an old-fashioned like 2D type of thing, and they had the 3D, and they didn't have anyone to do it. So when I came on, I was able to bring in 3D design capability to the company. And so although I was the lowest rung and very early in my academic studies, it ended up being quite a lot of impact I was encouraged to have, and a lot of impact I was able to have.
That must have been fantastic. But I guess you were mentored on other things as well during that time.
Oh, completely, and still am. There's, we're a manufacturer, and a lot of the old folks I work with really are kind of the authorities in their respective fields when it comes to manufacturing. So while I maybe was the guy with the computer skills, the 3D CAD skills, I was able to work with one gentleman who wrote the book on plastic manufacturing, and another gentleman who wrote the book on metal manufacturing, and I still work with them to this day, and I still continue to learn so much from them. And so that exposure has been really good. And I think and that's being able to pick the brain of people like that, I think, is also something that perhaps at a bigger company they wouldn't have the patience for. And I try to be as deeply involved in the manufacturing as I can be. So in my shop here in New York, I've got a lot of capability as far as that. I've got some partners I work with in the New York area, in the Northeast, who I'll work with and work with very closely. And then some clients, overseas, partners overseas. And whether it's in my shop or with one of these partner shops, I still tend to be as involved as I can. I really try to be with the guys on the floor and really think through the problems. I can be as hands-on as I want. Sometimes I have to be more hands-on than I'd like. So it's been good in that regard. And I'll be in a factory on the other side of the world with the operator. Sometimes I'll be in my machine shop trying to drill something out myself to play with it. Sometimes I'm making my own prototypes. I get to work with sales folks, with clients, which is its own challenge. I think I get to deal with that, which is I think a little unconventional for an engineering position. The overall goal, whether it's mine or perhaps a student watching this, is, hey, I want to make products. Hey, I want to, make stuff. Depending on the organization or the industry, I think there's a limit to what an engineer is doing with that. So at a bigger company, the engineer is making the product, designing the product, but he or she may not be selecting what product they're making. So perhaps, that might be a marketing department saying, hey, we need to make one twice as big. And the engineer's like, fine, I'll make one twice as big. And I think that impact as far as making, and I would segment that, I'd call that, instead of making, so you'd have another department making a design specification while the engineer actually turns those into product specifications. Well, when I say I enjoy the breadth of smaller business, I think I have the flexibility to impact design specifications along with the product specifications.
Right. And then you said you loved it so much, and they obviously loved you so much that they said, stay with us and be a design engineer.
As I worked longer at the same company and developed my relationships with my colleagues and just learn more about it, I think as time went on, it became, clear that it is the right option. A younger self, you think of, hey, okay, I graduated, get a job. There isn't quite a finish line or something past that. It's just, hey, okay, here's the next thing I'm doing. And I think the longer I've been at my company, the clearer I've seen, or the more understanding I have of like, hey, this is not just a job, it's a career. And the further I walk down this path, the more doors that'll open.
How did your job role change, or was it just a gradual transition as you built up more skills and more interfaces with customers in the manufacturing process?
It went from 100% of just the fun stuff to then, adding on some of the actual responsibilities. So perhaps an internship, I'm just making pretty models and, running back and making prototypes and really seeing, just doing concept to paper, concept to part. But then as you develop it, well, now there's more to it than that. And now that is working with the client, that is negotiating arrangements, reviewing specifications, managing expectations. The joke I always make is, it's the engineer's the guy who makes the lies come true. So it's like it's the, yeah, we can do it, or yeah, we can do it by then, and that lie needs to come true. And so that responsibility is, okay, making that happen.
Well, you've obviously been very successful in it, because then you went on to be an engineering operations manager. You've got a whole different skill set to think about there.
If I saw a road in the path that seemed attractive, I think that would have been the next step, and it was. And yeah, it became, all right, I'm the engineer. I'm the guy who's focused on the products from the engineering standpoint. Well, now I got to start managing, instead of managing just projects, I'm managing people, if that makes sense. Working with my production staff in my shop, having a close relationship with my machinist, with my painter, with my warehouse.
You said you've had like 5 to 6 years in your engineering career, and you're already an engineering operations manager. You're saying you're dealing with things all around the world. That must, pretty good sense of achievement there for you.
Well, I appreciate you putting it that way, and I think so. I agree. I think that's I'm proud of, and you've had, I'm very intimidated by the other folks you've had on this podcast. They've been doing it a lot longer than I have, but at least for a guy who is very early in his career, I am proud of what I've been able to do so far.
I think you show to young engineers out there the potential that is out there. Do you think there are certain things that have helped you get where you already are today? Okay, you must be a very much of a skilled engineer, but from a technical standpoint, but there's so much more to getting where you are that makes you an all-rounded engineer. What do you think those factors that have really been important to you, that you could perhaps advise other students to recognize those importance, build certain skills there? What would they be?
And it's the advice that I want to give you. It's yes, it's very important to have strong technical skills, and it's very important to do well in the coursework that's applicable to your industry. But I would say is to really keep your eyes open with everything. In younger education, high school, middle school, I was the math science guy, and I was never that interested, committed, or that successful when it came to like the writing courses and any of that. And that was just something I want the answer. I want to be able to do math and get an answer. And so one of the things I learned going to engineering school is I like writing and I'm a good writer. And within my program, I have a lot of opportunity to really study some of the other disciplines that I think an engineer typically wouldn't study and perhaps maybe wouldn't want to. And I don't think if I went back in time and looking forward, but I say I wanted to, but I'm glad I did. Getting good at speaking, getting good at a lot of those tasks, I think is very important, especially in the professional world, because there's being able to develop a technical solution, which is very important and very challenging. But then there's also being able to communicate that to someone else, and that someone else could be someone who understands the technical, it could be someone who doesn't. And you need to be able to do that. A task that I think is important, especially for another early career or student, is get good at delivering bad news and honestly. And I think I see a lot of folks who really want to paint a nice picture and do really well when things are going well, but when a project, and there's always gonna be a hiccup. It's gonna happen, and obviously you want to get good enough that you can see them coming and see if you can address them. But if and when you don't, being able to say, oops, here's what happened, and I mean, I think that's a difficult thing. And I think it would be important for a younger person to reflect on.
When I asked you to represent your career in vehicles, you chose one vehicle, which is a Golf GTI in red. Specifically red, not black, not white, not grey, but red. What was your thinking about this choice? You probably weren't expecting me to ask that, but I thought I'd throw that in there at the end.
No, I was
you have a Golf GTI.
I do.
Okay.
And it is red. It is not the one pictured here, but it's very close. Yeah, you did ask me, hey, pick a car that represents your career, and I have to go back to the GTI, and I think I guess I relate to it because it's kind of a jack of all trades. It kind of has to do everything. You can fit 4 people in it. You can put all your luggage. I've moved apartments in it. I've put all sorts of, greasy car or boat parts in it. But on the same side, it also is it's fast. It handles well. It's got the sporty bits to it. In the same way, I think I've got a decent breadth of. I think the GTI is similarly the jack of all trades.
Zach, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a great opportunity.
Brilliant. And I say goodbye to everybody. Thank you.